that okay?
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's fine.
yeah, let's move on. Okay. Let me start my recording. Okay. So now let's move. Let me know when you can see my screen. I'm gonna share my screen now. Okay. So let me know when you can see my screen.
Can see it.
All right, good. So straight to the points. We'll take steps one after the other, and we'll deploy straight up. From now onwards, and I believe most of us that we have been walking through each of the classes in the last few 2 to 3 weeks. There's this rule that we always use. Please don't delete that rule. That's what we'll keep using in subsequent classes. That's role that has S3 and SSM, session manager policies, session manager permissions. So let's keep that role. We'll be making use of that role at every point in time. So there's no need to start creating it afresh again. Then my security group. Well, I might show you what I configured in the security group, but I expect that everyone would know how to set up a security group now. So I might be using what I have already. So I won't be creating it afresh. So I will use what I have, especially tonight. Probably in the next class or in the coming classes. If there's a need to create a new security group, I might do that. Okay, so let's move on. I think I'm already logged on to my instance. So let me see. All right, so I said we'll start from the beginning, from the very beginning, so that in case we have people that doesn't understand what we have done before, I will just take it up from the beginning. Okay. All right. So the first thing I want to do here is to um create my bucket. So I would search for S3. So what are we doing tonight? What I want to do is to host a PHP MySQL dynamic application that has, an application that has a connection to a database. So like I mentioned yesterday, deployments could come in different forms. Deployments could come in different forms. You could have your developer give you an application to deploy um, that already has a database, inbuilt database, in the sense that you wouldn't have to worry about setting up a database. Should I call it setting up? No. You could have a situation whereby this database is already in place. And of course, in most cases, for applications with database connection, the database would be in place already. So sometimes what happens now is probably you migrate the database from an on-premise environment to your AWS environment, or the developer already formed a script. The developer already formed a script that you just need to run on your environment, and the database starts working. So it's no big deal. There's no big deal about the whole thing. So what we have tonight is the connection is already in place. Um, you just need to run um, install.php to initialize the database. That's what we have uh, for today's class. I mean, for this application that we are deploying, that's what we have. We have the database in place already. We have the application configured to talk to a database already. So because we are creating the instance of the database by ourselves, we need to initialize the database to connect on our AWS environment. And that's what we're going to do tonight. So let me go to my S3 and bring in my code. And before I bring in my code, okay, let me create my bucket first. I think we should start from there. Let me create my bucket. Okay, I want to leave this bucket there. So let me create a new bucket. Um, New web buckets. You can choose to name this anything you want. I'll leave it in US is one. ACL disabled block or disable versioning. I'm not going to enable that. I'm going to enable server-side encryption, and I think that will be off for here. Please make sure you are following. I will be as fast as possible. So just make sure you are. So this name has been used before. So that means I will need to choose a new name. New web bucket one. So let me try this. Okay, so this has not been used. So we'll move on. Okay. All right. Now, for my code to work, like I said, you have to edit the config file for the code to, I mean, for the application to be able to talk to the database instance that you are creating. This has to be edited. This especially has to be edited because this is the main. I mean, this is the connection. This is what forms the connection to the database. This is what forms the connection to the database. Then you can choose any username or password any username or password that suits you or that you want. But this is where we made the mistake. This DB name has been configured for this application. So if we are going to make any change to this DB name, it has to change all around. It has to change in every of the pages that will be talking to the database. But I'm not going to be changing this. I will leave it the way it is. I'll be using this test DB name that we have there, so as to avoid complications. But I can actually look for complications, but so that would be straightforward in what we wanted to do tonight. I would maintain this. Because if I want to look for complications, you guys might not understand again. So by the time you guys are becoming gurus, you can also look for complications and change the name and start looking for where the problem is. You learn more with that. Okay? So let's move. Um, let's move. Let's move. So let's do this. Where's my? Okay. So I've created my bucket. I've created my bucket. This is the bucket I want to use tonight. I can copy the name out to somewhere else. I'm gonna use this. I'm doing these afresh because of you guys, so I will delete all these ones. I don't need them. Okay, so now let's go on to
So can you
Ma?
please send the link again to the chat?
The link, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Have you gotten it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. All right, so let's move on. So the first thing I want to do is to create my database. So let's go to RDS. Please pay attention. And once we are done with this class, you can do anything with your in your environment. You can do anything. You can practice as much as possible, but please pay attention so that you can get every detail to make your application work. Okay, and if you are as fast as possible, you can be as fast as possible. You can follow me while you can be doing your own as well while I work on the screen. But that means you will not be drawing us back with questions. Okay, so Benny, I mentioned something yesterday regarding Amazon RDS, Relational Database Service. When you want to create your database, where would you go from this screen?
At the left part of the
Okay.
uh,
Oh yeah, direct me. Direct me. I want to follow your steps.
the left part, you just click on database there,
Okay.
and the create database by the right part of the screen. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. It shows that you paid attention yesterday. Nice one. Let's move on. So
Okay.
I'm creating a standard database. Then I'm choosing my SQL. I'm choosing my SQL. Let's move on. This is a free tier template. I'm not using this is not production. This is not development or test environment. So this is a free tier. Let's move on. Instance DB instance. I'm going to give this a name. Um, my new DB. No, my new DB. I hope it's okay. My own. I'm not sure. Let's go. Let's go on. Let's go on. So I will leave the username as admin. Then I will change my password to. You can use the any password you want. It's up to you. I'm sure you guys will know this password, sha. Because I'm going to. My screen will be displayed while I put in the password. So I'm using 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 for the purpose of this class. So like I used yesterday, I'm going to use T2 micro for this. I'm not using T3 because I don't need two CPUs. I only need one. So I'm using T2 micro. Okay, let's move on. I want to allocate 10 gig, 10 gig storage. Then I don't want to enable auto scaling. I don't need auto scaling. No, of course, if I'm working in a production environment, I will definitely select enable storage auto scaling. Or if I'm performing an advanced test, or if I'm creating an advanced, um, if I'm creating an advanced, auto scaling is good. I'm sure everybody that has gone through the auto scaling class understands the auto scaling is a nice stuff. It's very, very good. But I don't need it here. That's just it. I don't need it here. So let's move on. I'll list this as default. We're not creating VPC now. Then this will be I will not enable public access. Then what else? I'm going to remove this default from security group. I'm going to select, since this is a database, I'm going to select the database security group that I created yesterday. I'm going to select that. So I'm going to drop it in EUS is 1 availability zone, 1A availability zone rather. Let's move on. Let me check what's in my additional configuration. 3306, that's the database port, standard. Then what else? So I dropped something here yesterday, but I'm not going to do anything here. So this is where the problem came from. I added something to this place yesterday as initial database name. Whereas what we're actually doing by running install.php, you understand, is that we are initializing our database. We are initializing this database connection. So that means this DB name, this DB name would automatically work in the place of what we would put in here. So that's why when we are trying to communicate with the database, it's seeing what the name I put here, whereas it's supposed to be seeing what I have as the DB name normally here. It should be speaking to what I have normally as the DB name here. Though I changed this as well yesterday, but create .php and read.php, they are looking for a DB name called test and not my new DB. What did I put there yesterday? My new DB one that I put there yesterday. They are not looking for that. What they are looking for, what those pages are looking for, is test as the DB name. Do you understand now? So if I had left this one the way it was and I didn't make any change here, it would have worked yesterday. So let's go on now. I will leave this the way it is, and we'll go on with. I'm not going to change anything there. We'll go on with our deployment. So I'm not going to put anything here. Let's just move forward. Remember, guys, I didn't put anything here. So I'm not going to enable automated backup. I'm not backing up anything here. And I'm not going to enable enhanced monitoring. If I'm working in a production, I can do that. I don't need that. Okay. Moving on. Um. Moving on. I think I'm done. Let me create my database. Okay. So let's allow the guys to drop the endpoints. Remember the endpoints that we're looking for here, that we're waiting for yesterday. That's the same endpoints that we would wait for today. Let's wait for it to create. But before then, let me show you. Let me show you what we have in our security group. You remember the security group that I selected? I'm going to show you what's in the security group now. So we might not spend more than 1 hour. We are done on time and you guys don't have much questions. But if you have questions, I will surely welcome your questions. So once we are done, you guys can have a good night's rest. So security groups. Now, I selected database sec group. Okay, so I'm going to select this and let's view the content of database sec group. Let's view the contents. I'm going to edit this so that you can see what we have there. Okay, so look at this. This is what we have here. This is what we have here. The first rule that we have here, of course, is this is a database security group. So especially when it comes to SQL, when you are using MySQL, you must always select this type to give permission. Now, I selected this because this is the security group that I'm going to connect to my web server. This is the security group that I'm going to connect to my web server. So what this is going to allow me to do is, someone should please tell me what this security group is doing here. So this security group is my web server security group. Based on your understanding, what is this security group supposed to do?
Get access through.
Let's not waste time, please.
Um, get connected through the security group.
Um, Perhaps they will prevent users in accessing the RDS directly.
Okay, you answered the question partially. You're correct, but you answered it partially.
Hello, mommy. How you doing?
Any other person that wants to try?
Yeah, I'm having a class now. I'm gonna call you
Mm,
later, okay?
to control
Yeah,
how
maybe.
traffic need to control how traffic could be, distributed to our instance.
Okay, Chelsea. Um, I'm not. That's not what I'm expecting. I'm expecting something else. So I'm saying this is my where's the thing? I'm saying this is my um. Let me remove this and bring it back. This is my web server DB. Okay, this is it. So I'm saying I selected this security group to work with, and this is going to be the security group that I'm going to assign to my web server. So one more person should try, so that I can get. Somebody has gotten half
I
mark,
think
but I want you to get the
I
full mark.
think the security group actually gives access, you know, to to your instance, and also yeah, it grants access to the instance.
Yeah, that's it. What the security? Yeah, you are correct. So what the security group is doing? The reason why I'm granting access to this security group is so as to grant my EC2 instance, or the application that I'm deploying inside EC2 instance access to this database. Access to this database. Because if you are trying to write into this database and the EC2 instance or the application doesn't have access to this database, it's not going to work. So the only way we can we can make that work is to allow access to this database through, by giving, by granting permission to this security group that is being attached, that's going to be attached to the web server. That's just it. That's it. And the first person that answered the question was also correct, though you got it halfway, so as to prevent people from the internet from accessing the database directly. Now, because we did not define any permission for internet users here, which of course we are not supposed to do when it comes to database. We're not supposed to grant that access. Your application should be the one talking to the database and not internet users directly. Okay. So, and this second rule that I have here is granting access to my laptop.
Yeah.
My laptop. I'm granting access to my laptop
Okay.
such that when I need to connect to my
Through your laptop.
database using the likes of Workbench, my SQL Workbench, I would be able to connect because my laptop has been granted access to the database. Okay, so let me save this rule. Okay, web server DB. Okay, no problem. So let's move on. Okay, let me check. Let me check that web server security group. Up web server DB security group. Okay, let's see what we have inside it. Because I'm not okay, except if my IP address has changed. I'm not expecting it to save
Yeah, it's
successfully.
not gonna change.
Okay, so let me change this. I'm sure my IP address will have changed. So let me change this.
Really? You didn't change?
Okay, so let's move on. Let's move on. So let's see if our RDS database service is fully launched now. So we can get um databases so that we can get our endpoints and move on with what we wanted to do. Okay, so my new DB, let me open it up. and copy my endpoints. It should be up now. Okay, so this is my endpoint. This is what I copied, though, guys. This is my endpoints that I copied. So let me go to. I'm going to paste this here. Okay, and my username is admin, and I use the same password that I have here. You can change it to anything you want. I use the same password. So those are the three things I'm changing from here. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to save this and close. All right. So let me go to my S3 buckets now. So that means I can upload that file now. I can upload that file now. All right. So I'm going to upload the file into my S3 buckets now. I'm going to upload this file into my S3 bucket. I'm going to click on upload. Then I would drag this and drop here. And I'll scroll down and upload. So once we are done with this, we'll go ahead to create our EC2 instance. That's the next thing. You can see how I'm taking it step by step so that we won't lose track. Okay, so our upload is done. I'd already copied my bucket name somewhere else. So I have the bucket name here. And this is the script that I'm going to be running. So I can really easily replace the bucket name that I have here with the new bucket name. With the new bucket name. Okay. Now let's move on to create our EC2 instance. So I'll type EC2 and click on EC2. Okay. So instances. Launch instances. I want to give my instance a name. Web server 2. This is my choice of name. So you can choose any name you want. So web server 2. Oh, okay. Okay, let's move on. Web server 2. I'm leaving this as I'm using Amazon Linux. Then kernel 5.10. We are all familiar with this. Now T2 micro. For instance type is going to be T2 micro. I'm using one virtual CPU. Let's move on. So I'm going to, for my key pair, if you created the key pair yesterday, you can use the same key pair. That's not a problem. You can use the same key pair. So I think I created this yesterday. So let me just add it. I'm going to edit my network settings. I'm leaving the VPC as default. But I'm going to select for my subnet, it's going to be US East 1A for my availability zone. Okay. I'm going to leave this as enable assign public IP. Okay. So I want to select existing group here. I'm not creating the new security group. So I'm going to select that web server security group that would grant us access to, so that we can have access to that database, web server DBSG. So this is it. Okay. Let's move on. Let's move on. Okay, so I'll leave this at 8 gig. Configure storage. Leave it at 8 gig. And you guys don't forget the application we are deploying is not a graphical. It's not a graphics application. It's just like it's an application, of course, because it's performing an action. So, but it's not that big application that you're expecting. The fact is, we want to establish a connection with the database, and we should be able to do it. That's what that matters to us. Let's move on. Then instance, I have instance profile. I'm going to select start existing. So I can choose, because this guy is doing the same work as this, so I can choose either of the two. So I will choose this. I'll select the second one. That was the one I created yesterday for the role. My shutdown behavior terminates. Once I shut down, terminates my instance. I'm on a test environment. I don't need to start keeping the unnecessary. Let's move on. Let's move on. Okay. Okay, I think we are done here. I'm trying to check through if we have missed out anything. I'm checking through. Okay, so let's move on. I'm going to launch my instance straight up. Okay, so I've launched my instance. Now let's click on this link to view the instance as it's launching. So it's pending. So let's keep refreshing until it's up. It's running now, but it's currently initializing. Status check has to be 2/2 check complete. Okay, still initializing. What else? What else are we waiting for? What else can we do while it's initialized? Let's see. What else can we do? I don't think we have any other thing that we need to do. We have finished creating our DB. Our DB instance is already up and running. So what else? Let me close this. I don't need this page. I think we're almost done. Yeah. So I'm waiting for this to get done. So I'm thinking of setting up a test for us. Like let me start probably with I will start with probably 20 questions. 20 questions. I don't know when, but probably during the week. Either on Wednesday or Saturday. And I think Saturday will be a good time. I think Saturday will be a good time so that I can have time to set up the question. So I would set up some questions for us to participate in a should I call it a test? Yeah, a test. I want to know how far you guys have gone, like what you know now, so that when you sit for exams, you would you would have you have checked and balanced yourself. Because I'm going to be giving you live questions that will get you ready for Amazon Cloud practitioner exam. It will get you ready for Amazon Cloud practitioner exam. Okay, so now we have 2/2 check pass. So let's connect to our DB, our AC2 instance. I'm going to connect to my EC2 instance. Then from session manager, I'm going to click on connect. Okay. My first script. My first script. Like I said, different scripts for different purposes. For this purpose, we are using this script. Like I said, there are scripts, so many scripts online. In case you don't know which one to run, you can search for scripts online, but you should be able to bring up your own script if you have watched Linux videos. So let me run this. The Linux video that I shared, please watch and rewatch. Watch it over and over again. You get to understand most of the things in this black screen. Okay, my second command to install PHP. Okay, so the first is done. Has finished updating my firmware. So I'm going to run the second one now. Okay, so this is done. Let's move on to the next command. I hope you guys have this command, right? So I don't have to worry.
Yeah.
I've given you the code as well, so you guys can download the code I'm using tonight.
Sorry, where is the command? Please, can you send it to like WhatsApp? Because I can't copy it from the call.
Okay, so I'm going to create. I'm going to upload this. I'm not going to drop this on WhatsApp. I want to upload this to my Google Drive as well and share the link. I think I have it uploaded already, sir. Because I think I've shared it once before. So I've installed Apache and MariaDB server. So let me install. I want to start my Apache now, Apache service. I'm starting my Apache service now with this command. Okay, so let me enable my Apache service. Let me feel like Begaban. I can actually type all these things. Apart from that last one that is so long. Okay, so I'm going to enable my Apache service with this sudo systemctl enable httpd. Then let me check if it's actually enabled. Yeah, it's enabled. You can see this. Now let me copy the contents of my S3 bucket into my HTML directory. I'm going to place this here and run. So let's see what we have. So it's done. It's done now. So what am I going to do now? I'm going to go back to my instance and copy this guy. Remember what I told you yesterday about I told you something about one comma. To initialize your database. You're going to be using install.php, which is already in this folder. So let me list what's the content of sudo lsvarww html. So I'm going to be running this install.php. This is what I'm running. So that means it's already in my repository. So what I'm going to do is I've already dropped the link, the connection to my EC2 instance, to the application itself. So I'm going to type install. What's up? Install.php to initialize our database. Okay, so database and table users created successfully. We actually saw this yesterday as well, so let's not be excited yet. So, like I told you, this application was deployed inside. I mean, the landing page for this application is inside public folder, and this is the guy. Index.php is the landing page. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to direct my URL into the public folder, then index.php. Now click on the enter key to run the application. Okay, simple database app. That's the way we have it. So I'm going to click on create. Now let's see. I'm going to use the same thing I used yesterday. Okay. My location is Lagos, Nigeria. I want to click on submit. I want to add a new one. Benny. Benny at gmail.com. I don't know what age to give Benny now. I'll just give Benny the 25. Benny, where is your location presently? Germany, Hungary, where?
Oh, Germany.
Germany. Submit. Taiwo. At gmail.com. I don't know your age, so manage 25. Where's your location, Taiwo? What's your current location?
Germany.
All this damn name picking. Chelsea. Chelsea. Your location. Your location.
My location.
Yeah.
Abba.
Hmm?
Abia State. Just write Abia. ABIA.
Are you in Nigeria presently?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Who else do I have on the call? Let me see. Eniola. Where is your current location?
Hungary.
Hungary. Eniola. Hungary. Now, okay. So let's go back home and find a user. And the application has been configured to find user based on location. So I want to find Chelsea first. Is Chelsea on the call? I want to find Chelsea first. View results. Can you see that Chelsea is being displayed? Chelsea has been displayed in a table. Let's look for another person that's in Germany. Now we have two people in Germany, Benny and Taiwo. They are currently in Germany. Can you see the display? Now we have somebody in Hungary. We have Eniola in Hungary. We have Lagos as well. We have somebody in Lagos. Yeah, I have myself in Lagos. So can you see that our application is now communicating with the database? Because if this record, the record that we entered had not been saved in the database, there's no way you'll be able to retrieve it when you're trying to find, when you're trying to retrieve the content of your database using location. You won't be able to retrieve it if it had not been registered in the database. So this is what we're trying to achieve yesterday, to write into a database and to call out what you have written into a database. So with this looks simple, but with this simple approach or with this simple application, if you are given a bigger application, it's just the same process. It's just the same step. Though the database might be bigger than this, the application might also be more good looking. Of course, it will definitely be more good looking. But process will not change. The process remains the same. So what is most important to us is you getting the actual process of how to deploy an application that has a connection to the database and ensuring that your application is able to write and read from the database. So guys, I think I'm done with my own part. So let me have your questions. D.
Um, who will write the information in the database already? Is it the cloud engineer or the developer?
Though, who will write these informations into the database? These entries, right?
Yes, who will want to write that?
Okay, now if you are deploying an application, application serves different purpose. Now you could have an application that will be interfacing with customers even outside the organization. So assuming you have a loan application now that you are deploying, definitely customers will be interacting with the application. So in such cases, customers will be the one inputting their record. So once they click on save, it saves into your database. So that means you are not the one, you are just using your platform to collect their information and probably processing their request. Do you understand? So now in such cases, they are the one writing into the database. So you are not the one doing this input. In another situation, you could have internal users, like other people in different departments in your organization that are interacting with a particular application that has database connection as well. So in such cases, users of the application will be the one interacting with the application to input data and storing data in the database. Your own is to make sure that the application is working and the database is working and the connection is seamless, and ensuring that the application is always available for the user to use. Do you understand? Now, in another situation, you could have like this application that you have deployed now. Of course, it will definitely have different pages. It will have different functions. So, in some cases, now, who creates a user in this application? Probably we have a user admin department. Like in my office now, we have a user admin team that what they do is ensure that users are onboarded. They control user onboarding into any application, and we have numbers of applications. Like in my unit alone, we manage almost like 80 applications. We manage almost like 80 applications. So we have different personnel handling user creation in the database. Now, assuming a new staff resumes in your office now and you want to onboard the staff into they want to onboard a new staff into probably an application that is related to the user's job function. Now, user admin will collect the user's information probably from HR, and they would do the onboarding of the user on the application. So in such cases, the user admin team would also be interacting with the database because they are inputting data from a page. They are inputting user data from a page and storing it in a database. Do you understand? So there are different use cases for, how do I put it? There are different use cases for application communication with the database. There are different use cases. It varies. And of course, as a user of as a cloud administrator as well, there would be some cases where you also need maybe an application. One of the applications that is being used in your office. You could have a situation whereby you also um, make use of the application in terms of communicating um, with the application and storing data in the database. So it happens in different ways. It happens in different ways. So you can't tell. You understand?
Yes, I do. That means this kind of application with in connection with the database can be used in any organization, right?
Yeah, it can be used in any organization. It can be used in any organization. Any other question? Any other question?
For the meantime, no.
Okay. So I'll be expecting you guys to um do what we have done tonight. Like do your own personal hands-on and ensure that you get it. Like ensure that your application talks to the database. At least I've shown you from the beginning to the end. So I don't just want to be like solve the problem alone. I want to show you from the beginning to the end what I did so that you'll be able to relate with what the solution is. So ensure you channel your energy to doing this, practicing as well, just what we have done tonight. And on Wednesday, would start a new item on Wednesday. Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right. So if there's no other question,